Okay, lovely. I think I'm being heard, and I think the microphone is working, and everything else looks okay. So don't expect too much right now. I'm gonna move that out of the way. It's a little unsightly. So basically, yeah, I guess this angle is gonna be what I'm gonna go with. I'm not using any software for this, so I don't really think a green screen is that necessary. So I'm gonna make sure my room is as nice as it can be. I'm not a professional bed maker, but that is my made bed, and that is half of a Colombian flag. And the lighting isn't going to be perfect because I'm sitting at my corner desk, not my main desk. But they're both going to work. I'm going to go over what these are going to look like and how often these are going to be. Let me go ahead and grab my note-taking booklet thing. It's just a bunch of engineering paper I have left over from when I was in school. So I'll go ahead, and if you, I don't know, I'm gonna kind of wing all of this. So I might have a general idea of what I'm going to do, but for the most part, it's gonna be just day in, day out streaming throughout the entirety of the games of the playoffs, excluding Sundays, as those are my rest days. I follow that tad bit religiously, and Mondays, as I am in a basketball league of my own that will overlap with the basketball games. However, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, for the entirety of the NBA playoffs of days that have games, I will be live. I have one of my laptops here on my left showing the game. I'm going to have it muted, and I'm going to have it on at the same time as I'm streaming. I'm going to be watching the game, so you'll see me like this, and I'll be speaking into my microphone, which I have right here, and I'll be slightly loud about it, but I'm going to have the chat on my right. I'm going to be monitoring it. This is going to be the best attempt of mine at being a actual live streamer where it's not about the game, which is what I usually do when I'm streaming and when I'm making videos. It's about the game. This is like kind of more on the side in an attempt to grow my following, as I think I want to make that push throughout these next 2 months before my channel turns 5 years old, to get a larger viewership, a subscriber count, that and spreading a lot of videos coming out. So I don't think this will be directly related to my videos, but maybe I'll make mentions of them. For example, I'm going to have some description, some links in the description for different games and different things. So I'm going to flash back to June 12th of 2023, where I posted a video halfway through, or pretty late into, but a kind of a halfway mark for my Black Ops 1 gameplay slash walkthrough slash campaign completion thing, where I made a mention of the people that I was living with. And I'm not living with them anymore, but the one that I made a main note of was the brother figure in the house, and I named him Luke as an alias. And one of the things that was going on during that time was that I had dropped my classes in school, and they kind of were like, I don't know if this is the best idea, because I didn't have a big enough backing on YouTube to make money off of it to like support myself. And I was going against my parents. I was doing things that were a little bit outlandish. But he said, but what he like, since they saw me working on the videos and stuff, I guess at times it seemed like I wasn't doing enough. And he was like, yo, if I was you, I think I would be doing everything in my power to make sure that it worked out. But I hadn't really taken the full leap at that point. At that point, I was still like, I had a lot of backing from the school, from my parents that were saying it's okay, it's okay. And I did go back to school and I did complete it this past 24. So it's been about 11 months now since I got out of school, and I have not found full-time employment for many reasons, but I think the biggest one is that I didn't have that will and desire. I still want to make that push. However, I do believe in the significance of time periods, especially with like, I don't want to call it just numbers overall, but in a business plan, usually you make a 5-year plan. And so I think where I'm at in the next 2 months will be very telling of whether this can be something that sustains me without needing full-time employment. So I'm going to make the biggest push I can. So Luke, I appreciate you. And I told you, I do, it may not seem like it, but I do listen to you. And I've taken your advice as well with the Casual Chronicles, but I think that's something only you and I would be able to understand if you really thought hard about it. But for everyone else, I welcome you, and I hope that throughout the playoffs, if you are into basketball, I am kind of riding the coattails of the NBA. They have a much larger following than me. Although people complain about the ratings and stuff, it's because they spend a lot more money, so they need to make a lot more money. But if I could acquire some fans from them that maybe overlap, I really like the NBA. I'm a huge NBA fan, and I'm also a huge fan of the games that I play, and I guess of myself. So hopefully there's some overlap. But like I said, I leave it up to the Lord above to whatever happens, whether I'm successful, whether I'm not, to that. But I'm gonna try anyway. So to my left is like a little practice. I have the WNBA draft open, but I'm not going to do much analysis on that. They just picked somebody named Dominique Malonga. She's 6'6" from France, and she's 19. And there's no active players in the WNBA other than under 22. So that's a first, huh? And more French people, not French people, people from France playing basketball. So that's pretty cool. Just to like kind of give my resume, I guess, about NBA watching. I have gone to a lot of NBA games, and I've been watching basketball very consistently at the highest level for a good amount of time. I've had NBA League Pass since I was a freshman in high school, which was when out in like 2014, the fall. So I guess 2015, if we add to that, it'll be like about 9 years. So reaching 10 soon. So I love the sport. I watch a lot of it. I actually know it pretty well, and I do play it myself, as I mentioned earlier. So the biggest thing that I want to share is my experience, what I think about the game as it's happening. Not necessarily saying I know the game better than you. This is who's going to win. This is why I think so. It's just kind of be like an enjoyment, like a company, a companionship type vibe. If you want to watch it to the side, I would recommend watching it yourself. And if you don't have access to maybe the game itself, that does cost money, unfortunately, but I'm paying that, but I can't share that out here, or else that's not that great. So if you want to watch it yourself, you might have to do that off to the side. But for me, I'm going to be watching it, and I'll be monitoring the chat to see what people are saying as well. So that'll be consistent from tomorrow onwards, skipping Sundays and Mondays. So that should be pretty exciting. It's going to be a pretty good amount of time. It's not just going to be like 30, 40 minutes. It's going to be like the whole 2.5 hour games front to back. So it's going to be a pretty massive time crunch for me. But like I said, I'm going all in, like all the chips in the middle. This is it, now or never. But like I said, I'm always going to try to make the videos as I can. But if I have to pull back, like that's just going to be something I have to do. So, but like we'll start talking about the basketball now. The games don't start until tomorrow, and I will go live a little, like maybe like 10 minutes before the first game, which is Hawks versus the Magic, and that's the first game in the play-in tournament, which has been around for I think 4 or 5, 6 years now. And the Hawks have had a pretty good record. I myself am a Hawks fan, so I'll announce that. Although I am wearing a Los Angeles Clippers jersey, one of the older jerseys. It's a Westbrook one, so it's a bit outdated, but I figured his number was 0 at the time, and today's day 0. So I'll try and shuffle them throughout. I'll probably wear my Trae Young jersey tomorrow, and I'll do like some commentary, but I won't be able to hear what the commentators are saying themselves. But I would love to hear opinions of what's going on during the game, and I'll answer what I can. But for the most part, it's just going to be my opinions and my experiences as well. And I'll see what I can manage on the commercials, because at some points there might not be a lot happening. There might be some games that are just not that interesting happening. So it'll vary. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm winging it, but it's going to be a good time, and I'm excited for it. So, yeah, this shouldn't be too much longer of a stream, but I'll go around with the matchups, and I'll say who I'm rooting for, but I won't necessarily say who I think is going to win. I don't want to tempt anybody to like use these picks for their bets and like blame me for if they lose or anything like that. So first up, we have Hawks at Magic, as well as I think it's going to be also in the West. So that'll be Grizzlies at Warriors. And I think this is done intentionally, that they have the higher seeds play first, because that way they can just kind of quiet is all. That way they can be prepared. They can watch the games for who they might play against and have a little bit more rest, mentally at least. It's a big stress thing, but I really like the play-in tournament a lot, so I'm excited for how it's going to go. So I'm rooting. The thing is, it's complicated here, because with the play-in tournament, you also know who you play if you win, as well as who you could play if you lose and then win. However, if you lose the first time, you risk losing a second time and not making it into the playoffs at all, which I think is genius. I really, really like that. And they're not really making it clear which team is picking and win. But the Washington Mystics picked up somebody called Sonia Citron, and she's 6'1" from Notre Dame. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. I think the draft order is at the bottom, so I'll check that. Like I said, if you haven't noticed, I'm watching the WNBA draft at the same time. It's a little bit of a practice, like for the setup and everything. So yeah, she was picked 3rd overall, 6'1". Interesting. So yeah, I the thing with this is like whoever wins we'll start with the Eastern Conference. So the whoever wins between the Hawks and the Magic will play the Celtics. And as we saw maybe 2 years ago, or I saw more particularly, even though the Hawks were the 8th seed that time against the Heat, they won that game on the road and played the Celtics in the first round. However, the Heat that lost and then won in the second play-in game to get the 8th seed and play the 1 seed, they beat the Milwaukee Bucks. So this is the complicated thing: is if you're in this position, would you rather play the Celtics or the Cavaliers? And I think personally, as a fan, if I want them to move on, I would rather them potentially play the I would want them to potentially play the Cavaliers because I think they're less experienced as a 1 seed, whereas the Celtics won last year and the Hawks don't have the best record against them. However, it would be a fun matchup to see the Hawks play the Celtics again after it was so exciting a couple years back. It's just a bit of stress, and also they don't have the best record against the Magic. So I think I'm just gonna watch the game as a fan, yes, but I'm okay with whether they win or lose. However, if they lose, I really hope they win the next game. I wouldn't really be that happy if they fell out of the playoffs. So yeah, that should be a fun game to watch. Moving on to the second game, Grizzlies at Warriors. This is another situation where the difference is it's backwards. The Thunder are a much greater threat than the Houston Rockets, but more obviously than the Celtics and the Cavaliers. They seem pretty evenly matched. The thing with the Thunder is that they're the only team in the West to have reached at least 60 wins, but also the Rockets have much less experience being such a high seed, so they're likely to be upset. However, last year, the Thunder were upset in the second round, so people could have their questions there. There are a lot of people, a lot of analysts in particular, are hyping up the Thunder a lot. But between the Warriors and the Grizzlies, I think the Warriors might like a matchup with the Thunder just because they have history against those teams, even if the players weren't the same. But regardless, I think both teams would like to win this game to play a Houston Rockets team that they have a better chance of beating. However, I think for this sake, it would be nicer if the Grizzlies won because it wouldn't require that much travel. Whereas the Warriors would have to travel to Texas rather than travel to no, they're pretty similar. The Warriors are going to have to travel no matter what. So I think they're pretty upset that they lost against the Clippers last time. So it looks like the Washington Mystics have 2 picks in a row. So unless they just traded and I missed it. This is probably going to be the last little bit of things I say since we're going forward. But they picked a girl named Kiki Irafen from USC. So it looks like they had 2 really early picks. There's a lot less teams in the W than there are in the NBA. But that should be interesting. Cool. And then the Golden State Valkyries are going to get their first pick, the new team there. So yeah, I'll try and go live a little bit before. I'm curious to see how those games go, and then after that, we can talk about the games of the future. So overall, it's going to be a little interesting to see how it all goes. I don't know. I love watching basketball, and I hope that'll be prevalent and clear. And I hope I can inspire others to like it, I guess. I don't know. I'm really just trying to figure out this whole thing. So that's cool. I can share my screen if I wanted to do that. So, but like I said, I can't share the games themselves because that's copyrighted and I can't do that. So, yeah. So I'll be back live tomorrow. You can check out other things on the channel. In the meantime, I have a lot I'm trying to get done throughout the mornings later. I'm not streaming on Twitch for the next couple of weeks as I transition from spring to summer. However, it's summer now on the channel. So, yeah, I hope you like it. Should be a good time. It's going to be a little different than what I'm used to. But, again, I'll be monitoring chat, and I'll probably have to shuffle through these jerseys all the time. So, yeah, if you caught me live, I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. And if you're catching me after the fact, your night, evening, morning, whatever it is that you're doing, there should be some videos going up tonight. So stay awesome and peace out.